everybody, welcome back to Days Well Spent. So we're doing something a little bit different on this video. I took a motorcycle trip up to Minnesota to see a cousin of mine. It's the only second time I've seen her. And they are avid gardeners as well. But Minnesota is obviously a lot different growing conditions than we have in Texas. So I just kind of wanted to show you some of the differences in what we're doing. I mean, if you watch websites about gardening and they tell you, oh, you should be doing something this way and that way, you have to really consider where you live in relation to where they live and what they're doing with their garden. Planting times and watering schedules, or just any of that. You have to really take into consideration, your growing zone. So just kind of get into it a little bit. This is their garden. It's a really nice sized garden. Just start here. We got jalapenos in this row, and they're just now getting jalapenos. They haven't even harvested jalapenos yet, but they are nice jalapenos. You can see them down here, but they haven't. It's just that time. We've been harvesting jalapenos for over a month, so obviously the growing time is a lot different on that. They've got bell peppers here. We're barely getting bell peppers. We're not getting very big ones. But if you look in here, you see they're already starting to get some nice bell peppers. Oh, here's another one hidden in here. Look at all the bell peppers on that. Isn't that beautiful? We won't get bell peppers anywhere close to this for probably another month at least. We got to get through August where we're at, because it's just simply too hot for them. Tomatoes, this is where it really gets interesting, is they're not even able to put their tomatoes out until May because of the cold, whereas we put ours out the first week of April, actually towards the end of the first week of April. As you probably saw from some of the videos or pictures, we've been harvesting tomatoes now, my goodness, for over a month. And they have yet to harvest one tomato. Now, they've got beautiful tomatoes and beautiful plants, but because they have to start them so late because it just gets so cold up here, they're not able to harvest them yet. You can see the nice clusters. Now, my cousin does something different, and I'm looking at possibly trying it now. Is they do these strings that go down into the ground, and it's tied to these boards. What this board is, what these screws are, is when the string gets loose, he'll undo it and he'll wrap it around and tighten it back up as a tomato, as he ties the tomato to the string. Here you can see how he does it. And he'll just take a branch like this one. He'll take and he'll pull it over and tie it up. So he's growing his tomatoes upwards. And we're kind of using more of a cage method, where as our tomatoes fall out, the cage holds them up. The other thing is he's real free with trimming the tomatoes, and it's something we haven't done. We just kind of let ours go for the most part. Here's a plant here they cut, and he'll come in here and he'll cut off, just like cut that off and cut that off. And I'll be honest, he's got a lot more tomatoes on his plants than we do. And he said he found that instead of the tomato spending all of its energy growing leaves, by cutting off a good portion of the leaves, it promotes the plant to produce fruit. So I don't know. I'm going to try some next year, and I'm going to do that. It seems to be working. His plants are healthy. My concern was, and I said, well, what about photosynthesis process? Does it affect the plant's ability to go through that? And he said no. He said not at all. Obviously, looking at the plants, like that big old, that's a beefsteak. His plants are producing. So obviously some different gardening techniques here that I wanted wanted to show you guys, and of course the planting dates. So he'll probably get, his tomatoes will start ripening up here in a couple weeks, and he'll have a real nice harvest of tomatoes. But their tomato season is really only through about September, because October it gets too cold here and tomatoes won't grow. So we'll keep getting tomatoes through October, and even into November. We were still harvesting tomatoes last year. So obviously the climate's a big factor in that. Now, as far as watering goes, they get a lot more rain here. It's rained every day that I've been here so far. But he's got a watering system similar to what we do at Days Well Spent. I mean, the design is a little bit different, but the principle is exactly the same. So he's got this bank of hoses and these on-off valves, and they have a shallow well, so they use well water, which we do as well. I like that because it's not city water. It doesn't have the purification chemicals and all that kind of stuff in it. So he pumps the water into here, and then he turns on the valves for whatever row he wants to open up. Now what he does is every year he will pull up all of the weed block to bare dirt, and then each of the rows he'll till. He'll even pull these poles out. All of this comes out to where it's just blank open space. Then what he does, he'll till the row. Well, he'll pull the pipes out, till the row, dig a trench, and he buries these pipes. They go into the ground. There they go. Let me show you this one here. Yeah, there you go. It goes into the ground, and it goes about 4 inches down under the soil level, and the PVC goes all the way to the end. And along that, about every 3 inches or so, he drills little 16th inch holes. There we go, and this is where it comes out, and that's a flush out valve is what he told me, in case the dirt gets in it. Then he uses this fiber cloth that he slips over it before he covers it up to help keep the dirt from getting in the holes. So he'll turn it on, and he'll leave the water on for 2 minutes per row, and that's it. And that's all the water that he needs. He says it saturates the ground down underneath the roots of the plant. And of course, as the plant grows, the roots grow around the pipe and everything, and that's fine. And it's just a completely different way to water. What I really like about it is that the water is never even exposed to sunlight, so there's no evaporation whatsoever. It's a very good idea. It's a lot of work though, but it's a great idea, because we use emitter lines, and we lay them on top of our hay along the base of the plants, and it drips down. But we do have some water exposure there as it drips out of the emitter onto the hay, whereas this completely eliminates any exposure or any evaporation. Now, of course, they're not getting as much evaporation because it's simply not as hot here. These are green beans, and they are absolutely beautiful. You can just walk in here. Let's go in here. Look at this. Look at this. Isn't this amazing? Look at the beans growing. I love this. I love this. Now, last year, they were sending, on Facebook, we talk on Facebook, they were sending Facebook pictures out, and they were picking these things by the 5-gallon bucket. I think they ended up with 50 gallons of green beans. We just had lunch, actually, and we ate canned green beans from last year. They can like we do, and they were fabulous. Look at these. They were fabulous green beans. So they're still eating their green beans from last year. Now, green beans is something, wow, look at that. Green beans is something that we have not been able to grow. We tried it the first year we were out there, and we tried bush beans. These are pole beans, and so it's a little bit different. Not the taste, but at least the growing of it's a little bit different. So our green beans, the bush beans, we got good plants, but about the time we got good plants and they started, producing, the start of the beans like this, the grasshoppers came through and they annihilated our green beans. We've tried them again this year, got them in a little bit late, and the grasshoppers have come in and started eating our green beans again. So we don't have the same success with green beans that they're having here. But they also said they don't have grasshoppers here. They don't have that pest eating theirs. So once again, it's just the regional differences in the way things grow and what affects what grows. This plant here is a buttercup squash, not butternut. Look at this. Hopefully I'm in the picture. So I'm 6'2", and it towers over me. So these are about 7.5 feet tall. They're also growing on hoops, the same hoops, but they're growing up into the air. It's incredible. So I'm reaching up with my hand, straight up. So that's actually about 8 feet up. You can see all the blooms in here yet. And looking in here, there we go. There's a buttercup squash right there. Isn't that beautiful? It's covered with them. They're just everywhere in here. I've never even eaten one, so I'm real excited to just see them. For one thing, we don't even know if they'll grow where we're at. It's something we'll have to look into, but they do grow well here, obviously. But they got beautiful vines. They're thick, they're green, they're healthy. Just a totally different technique of gardening here. And again, so what he does is each side of the hoop house, come down here, you can see he's got the clean out valve. There's a clean out valve, and then they grow up and over, and they kind of meet at the top. So anyway, I just wanted to show you guys that. So this is just a shelf outside of the garden where he puts his different gardening implements, cages and fencing and stuff like that he'll use for different things that he grows throughout the year. And then also there's compost piles. So this is just pure cow manure right here. And then this is he manages some property behind him, and this is some of the stuff that he tills up in a little field back there and brings it over here and builds compost with it. He adds leaves to it from the forestry back there, and eventually this will break down. He'll use it in the garden. It's real sandy. It's really just like our soil, extremely sandy, and he says the water goes right through it. So by making the compost, he adds it to the garden every year, to help retain water. The cow manure, he lets it dry, and he has a manure spreader that hooks up to a little tractor with a PTO drive. And after he clears this out before he gets ready to plant again, he'll go in there and he'll spread this about 1 inch thick across the entire garden, and then he tills it into each of his rows. And then he puts his pipe in, of course, and then his plants. So he's really adding some wonderful nitrogen, and this is something we want to do that we haven't done yet, is begin implementing a cycle of cow manure into our rows of garden. So the other thing that is really nice is the entire area is fenced in beautifully. It's got a double gate back there for him to bring his tractor through and work the garden. Squirrels are a problem here. Deer are a problem here too. We've seen deer in the backyard. So it's part of it. I mean, we all know that. We don't actually have squirrel problems. We have rabbit problems. They have rabbits out here too, but he's got this fenced off where the rabbits at least cannot get into it, but the squirrels can. So just some different ideas of gardening and some different things that they do. And I wanted to show you from Minnesota. I'll be here for about a week before I hop on the Harley and head back to Texas to continue working on our garden. I've got to get back there and harvest and of course maintain our garden as well. So, Hello from Minnesota, and as always, if you're not a subscriber, please hit the subscribe button, and also be sure to visit the website at dayswellspent.com.